Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Jared, and welcome to my apartment in Chelsea. Come on in.
This summer, spend the hottest months of the year in style with Homeworthy as we visit the most extraordinary homes around the world. From the sun-soaked shores of the Hamptons to the classic beachfronts of Nantucket to the vibrant courtyards of Morocco, be sure to subscribe to Homeworthy's summer series to make every day feel like a vacation. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
My name is Jared Reichert, and I am founder of Reichert Collective, a bespoke interior design and event planning firm here in New York City, and you're at my home in Chelsea, Manhattan. If I could give a 5-line bio about who Jared Reichert is, I would say first and foremost, smiley, joyful, optimistic, passionate about design and experiences, and a lover of life. So I found this place through a dear friend of mine who had it in her real estate portfolio. And she said, hey, I have a cute duplex apartment in Chelsea along the High Line. It needs a major gut renovation, but you might be interested. I came over to the apartment one rainy afternoon, not an ideal time to see it, but I saw the potential. I saw the beautiful high ceilings, I saw the skylight, I saw the private roof terrace, and I saw a staircase. And I'm obsessed with stairs, so I was like, I need to have this apartment. So we made it happen. So prior to moving in, about 30 days ahead of the movers arriving to the apartment, I got a phone call from my contractor who was just completing all the construction and refurbishments inside the apartment. And I was on a plane, so I couldn't get a hold of him when he told me to call him and as he texted. And I was like, why isn't he answering? I can't get in contact with him. Finally, when I landed, I got the worst news. There was a fire on my roof deck and all the work that we had completed had been lost. Now, I had no idea what to do because I had already signed off my other apartment in the West Village. I had found a great tenant for it, and I didn't want to ruin her first New York City apartment experience. So at that point, I was basically homeless, and I said, what am I gonna do? I walked in, I think I cried for about 20 minutes, and then I was like, you know what? It's all meant to be. At that point, I wasn't really changing much on the roof deck, but now I had no choice. So I got to design a roof deck that I actually really wanted and got to really adapt my style, my energy, and my vibrations into the space. Welcome to my living room. So this space here is flooded by natural light. So of course I had to have beautiful lamps that were gonna go with this gorgeous sunlight. So I have my Luigi Mazzioni vintage lamps from like the 1970s, fantastic additions to the apartment. The Golden Girls art, which I'm obsessed with on the back wall, which was the inspiration behind the entire apartment. And then of course you have to have your staples. I love my Eames collection. So my Eames lounge chairs, coffee table, the Elson Studio sofa from DWR, a fantastic addition. And I'm debating, do I add another section because it can become as sectional. So if I want to get more cuddly with somebody, I can just get another middle piece. I absolutely love my Vitra cork stools. They're fantastic because they're great as both side tables and also additional stools for when people want to sit around the living room. And then my dear friends from Patterson Flynn gave me this stunning carpet. I've been wanting this carpet for years and years and years, and I finally got it, so I'm very happy. Thank you, Leslie. And then when it comes to my entertaining section, so I'm not a huge fan of TVs. I don't really watch that much TV, so I decided to go for the Samson frame. I know a lot of people are worked up about the whole concept that a TV looks like art. I get it. I think Nate Berkus or Jeremiah Brent maybe said something about that. But when you're in a small space like this and It just works. So I'm doing it. I'm unapologetic about it. I don't care. But I just blend it nicely with a vintage console, the Atolo lamp, and just some good finds and good books I found during my travels. So these are my two favorite pieces of art. They are silk screens by Dennis Friggs. I found them on Cherish. I had been watching them for basically years and finally found a set that was worthy of coming to Manhattan. So I got them. It reminds me of the Golden Girls. It's Blanche, Dorothy, Sophia, and Rose all in one. I've never been happier. And I've never really stood back to really look exactly what it is, other than pure joy for me. So everything in the living room has to have a story, and that story is pops of pink. So when I was coming together to figure out what accessories I wanted to put on my coffee table, it had to be perfect. So I found these cute little coasters online, mixture of pastels and all the different colors, of course, that match the paintings and the art. A dear friend of mine, Jonathan, @Jonathan on Instagram, makes these incredible ceramic cigarette holders, which are quite hilarious. I actually stole this one from I think his 36th birthday. He's always been 36, but his actual 36th birthday, I don't think I've ever told him that, but I stole it from you. I love this annual magazine called Crotch, and their covers are always so stunning. That is a fuzzy peach bottom, which is very pretty because it matches the nude tones of the house. Then I love Marilyn Minter. She did this great collection called Elder Sex that is just the most stunning collection of photographs of elder sex, and the colors again all match perfectly in the apartment. So I am born and raised in a small farming community in Macklin, Saskatchewan. Actually, about a half an hour south of Macklin in a hamlet of Cactus Lake, which has 3 people, a post office, and that's it. After 18 years, it got a little bit tiring, and so I moved off to Toronto, Canada, and I went to school at Ryerson University. During my time in Toronto, I ended up having a great connection with the local Gucci store. I was an intern, and one day I wasn't supposed to show up to work, but I did because there was an event happening in the boutique on December 1st, World AIDS Day. And I walked in and asked how I can help. And sure enough, that landed me a job in New York City because I put myself out there. I met an incredible mentor of mine, James Knight, who brought me from the rolling plains of Saskatchewan to the big city lights of New York City. While I moved to New York, I was at Gucci for 3 years, and I got a phone call to come join Tom Ford. And I was at Tom Ford running the events and visual department for almost 8 years, traveling around the world, opening up all their stores, all the fun events and parties in store. It was a magical, magical time. It just got a little too much for me, and my life living on an airplane kind of got a little bit old. So I decided I can step away and start my own events and interiors firm, which is what I did. So I had one client, and I just invested all of that time into that one client, which then turned into 2 clients, 3 clients, 4 clients, and so forth and so forth. So 8 years later, running my own business, of course it has its own challenges, but it is probably the most fulfilling chapter I've had in my life. It gives me the freedom, the autonomy, the creativity that I've always desired, and I get to invite people like you into my home to share the things that I love so very much. So welcome to my dining room. Now, because it's an open concept kitchen, from kitchen to dining to living, I wanted to create some division in the space. So originally I thought dining table in the corner, underneath the light, but then I was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna do a natural separation, have a 6-person dining table right in the center, and accessorize it with some polyeth chairs. This mirror is a vintage mirror I found online on First Dibs. It comes from Berlin, Germany. I don't know the designer's name, but it follows the trend in the apartment, which is lots of curves. Some mornings I just like to admire myself in this mirror, like today, wearing my beautiful outfit from Jamestown, Hudson, to my dear friends Tom Mendenhall and James Scully's gorgeous store, and this brand is called Mono Italy. A great hosting tip that I like to follow is multicolored glassware, because how many times have you gone to a cocktail party, you put down your glass and everyone's glass is the exact same? Now, I like to have multicolored versions of that, so you always know Jared's pink and you're blue. So come over here to see my latest obsession, my Kato Koji platters and dinnerware. Now, I am mildly have an addiction to Memphis design, so I collect it. I find this all on eBay. This was the Carnival collection, which is absolutely silly, but it is my energy on a plate. Basically sporadic, crazy, fun, colorful, it's me. So I've been collecting those over the last few years, and adding into that collection are the glassware. Found these incredible mugs, which I'm also obsessed with, and what's even more special, the matching plates, so I can have a real fancy tea party, which I am obsessed with. When it comes to my glassware, I love the company called Mono NYC. They do these incredible, very beautiful, multicolor, multi-tonal glassware with contrasting colors. And I like to mix them all together to create a very vibrant kitchen display. One of my biggest things was to be able to see all of my glassware and dinnerware because I love it so much. So it was very important that that's the first thing I see when I come home, come down the stairs, and start my day. And then, of course, the king of Memphis sculpture and ceramics, Peter Shire. Love my Peter Shire mugs. And when I'm in the mood for just a little shot of espresso, the matching espresso cup. They're all numbered and editioned. These ones are from 2023. He still operates a studio out of Los Angeles, California. So these are my other fancy mugs, Peter Shire, limited edition. They number them every year when they come out. So this is from the 2023 collection. The colors were spot on to my apartment. It was also the year that I took possession of this space. Now, if I'm not in the mood for a big cup of coffee, I've got my cute little espresso cups in the same splatter paint pattern. Now, I only have one machine on my counter, and it's this Pavoni espresso machine. It makes the perfect cappuccino, macchiato, any espresso-based coffee you'll ever have. It's super simplistic. I feel like I'm on an airplane when I'm running it or in a vintage car, but it makes the perfect cup of coffee. So when I first came into the apartment, it was a U-shaped kitchen. So where I was standing right here was an island that turned into a sink, that turned into an oven, that turned into really bad espresso cabinetry from like the 1990s. It was disgusting. Not like good 90s, bad 90s that we all wanted to forget. So I wanted to open up the space, so I just created this standard L exposed shelving. So again, I could display all of my beautiful glassware and dinnerware. And then I wanted to conceal all of my things that I didn't want to necessarily see all the time. So the fridge and freezer all hidden behind the panels and cabinetry done by Reform. Also the freezer, the dishwasher, all of the must-haves if you're going to want to have a functioning kitchen. Now, of course, I would love to have more counter space, but you can't have everything in Manhattan. Now, if I had unlimited budget, I would redo all of my bathrooms to be in my current inspiration, which would be seamless Corian. Now, I know you think that's crazy, but it is gorgeous because I'm a clean freak, and right now I have tile and I hate having to scrub all the mildew. Corian is perfect all the time, and because of that, you can have a flawless bathroom and mix that with some fun colors, some great accessories, and of course great faucets and hardware. You're set. So I found this abstract Patrick McCarthy also online, and I thought this needs to be front and center when you come up the stairs into the apartment. So I wanted to give it its grandeur appeal here in the recessed area, and then accessorize it with an actual functioning sideboard. This baby is jam packed with all the goodies for entertaining, all of my alcohol, extra glassware, linens, etc. Then for the top, I just wanted to bring some of my favorite things. So I'm absolutely obsessed with this. This is also a huge inspiration, this vintage book. It's all about freestyle and the design movement of Los Angeles in the late 80s, early 90s. And then of course, my affinity for love for the LA area with the Los Angeles Taschen book. And then this silly guy. Now, if there was a candlestick that had my personality, it is this. It's wiggly, it's fun, it's got energy galore, and this incredible company that I found called Huber Trading Post, fellow Canadians in downtown Toronto, do these crazy swiggly candlesticks, which I'm also obsessed with. So love this guy. Having greens in my apartment was also very important because the rooftop, of course, is a luscious garden, but I wanted to bring that language inside. So I wanted to find varieties that could work in semi-sunny, semi-shady occasions. So we've got, a traditional ficus rubber tree, which is right over here, that grows. She sheds a lot. She needs a little bit of love. I have to move her sometimes in front of the window. And then we also got a good little citrus tree over here as well. I wanted to bring some light to the stair area and sort of bring the greens up against the walls. One of the things I love the most about this apartment was the staircase. Now, when I first purchased the place, it had a closed off stairwell with a door right here. And the first thing I said was that needs to be blown out because I want to see that beautiful grandeur, grand staircase up to the second level. Now, when it came to the treads itself, I was like, what do I do? Do I carpet it? Do I try to match the wood to the wood on the floors here? And eventually said, you know what? Let's just carry the pink upstairs and paint the treads pink to match the kitchen. And everyone was happy. So my style in interior design and event planning really works very closely with the style of the client. Now, of course, I have my own aesthetic, which is why you're in my home here. But when I'm working with people such as a dear friend of mine, Lauren Stevens, who is the head of Dudley Stevens, I really wanted to work with them to create a space in Greenwich, Connecticut that related to their family, to their lifestyle in the suburbs of New York, but in the beautiful town of Greenwich. So we worked very closely with them and came up with a scheme that both lent itself to their family, but also the environment that they were physically in every single day. When it comes to my own personal style, now that is depending on what vibe I'm going through that year, that day, that month, that moment. Right now, I'm loving pastels, joyful, colorful, experiential patterns, etc., that I really thrive in that energy and that vibration. After being at Tom Ford for so long, where everything was very gray, monochromatic, very sleek and clean, I kind of threw that all away to the side and said, I want light, bright, and positive. So that's why you're here. So when it came to the designing of this apartment itself, I fell in love with the 14-foot high ceilings and the open skylight in the living room. It reminded me of my home in Palm Springs, which is flooded by light. So I wanted to bring that same energy from Palm Springs to the bustling city of New York City. So I wanted to highlight that beautiful abundance of light with light colors that were going to be more reflective, give the space that sparkle that it deserved. So I chose a lot of ivories, pastels, muted blush tones, etc., to give it that clean and calmness that I like. Welcome to my guest bedroom. So it was very important for me to have a space in New York that could welcome people in. Now I've had friends from East Coast, West Coast, overseas, underseas, staying in this space. And I wanted to create a unified experience of my living room to the guest room. So we created these fantastic pocket doors that silence all of the goodies that are happening in the room, but also create that privacy and space that each person wants to have when they are residing here in Casa Pink Palace Pony Club, Chelsea. When you come into the bedroom, Again, I wanted to create this sort of idea, this serenity in Manhattan. So for this bedroom, I took a lot of inspiration from my sister Jenna's childhood bedroom. She had the most beautiful scalloped linens, and I remember being a little boy and wanting to always crawl into her bed because it felt so cool, yet so warm and so inviting and comforting. So I wanted to create that same ambiance here for my guests as well. Now, taking that whole scalloped vibe, I found these fantastic vintage Italian sconces from the postmodern era as well as accents to the space. A fantastic postmodern abstract painting as well. This one also super controversial with my friends because they're like, did you paint it? Is this really from the 1970s? I'm like, it is. I love it. I don't care what they say. I love this pencil reed mirror, also found online on First Dibs. I get into these fun bidding wars with all these other postmodern addicts like myself. Of course, in case of emergency, I don't need to explain that. You know what that is. And then this is my latest new fun accessory. This is from my best friend, Robbie, and it's gay spray. So if you want to be gay, you just spray and you're gay. Obsessed. That was my birthday present this year. So this was the very first piece of vintage furniture that I was gifted from my dear friend, Michael Deichman. This is an Ernest Race antelope chair from the 1950s. Now, these were stackable. They were produced in mass because they were apparently the future of mass seating. They didn't fall into favor so quickly, but they have become great collector's items, and I'm thankful enough to have two. The side tables also follow this curvature, softness that's happening throughout the apartment, but I wanted to bring in a new material. So they're white, they look light, but they are solid stone, heavy as bull. But they're great as an accent to this space and pulls the whole bed area together quite nicely. Now, a lot of friends have make fun of me. They say you live in a pink pony palace, which I kind of do live in a pink pony palace, and I'm okay with that. I am super confident when it comes to color, and I realize that it might not be everybody's choice, but for me, it's absolutely perfect. And I invite all of you to go out and choose your favorite color and design your house in that color because it makes it a lot of fun because all the accessories go together, the lamps go together, the flowers go together, the candles go together. It's a cohesive story, and that's so exciting to build. And I took a lot of reference from Memphis design, from a little bit of postmodern design. They're kind of like these forgot about design movements that people like to forget, but there are some really iconic pieces that came out of those moments. And I wanted to bring them back in life, but give them a fresh take. Now, I'm not designing the entire house in, zigzags and stripes and all the mixture of patterns, but what I'm doing is creating a space that invites all these pieces in. Let me take you upstairs to where the magic happens. Now, welcome to the primary bedroom. This is where the magic and the sleep happens. So this is just right off of the roof terrace. So again, it was very important for me to have this abundance of light by the moment that I wake up, and also view of my garden that I tend to all summer long. So creating a space that was fluid to what was happening downstairs, but also maybe masculine it up a little bit. So I wanted to bring in a couple of new colors that all are still within that sort of warm hues, nude palette. So I brought in a little bit of rust. I brought in a little bit of beige and white, but I wanted it to be very clean, comforting, yet sexy and approachable. So I wanted to work with a couple different designers on some of the pieces. So I got this great bed from First Dibs, from a great vendor out west. Of course, I love my parachute sheets. So my parachute linens, which are a must-have in all of your homes. I don't get anything from them, by the way. That's just truly from my heart. So a few of my favorite items in my primary bedroom are this fantastic vintage Eames side table, which I purchased decades ago, and I'm happy that it finally found a home that it's really, really happy in here in Chelsea, and it came back to life. I am obsessed with my pendant lights. I have them throughout the apartment. It was important to me to have pieces from the mid-century moment, and also reflects back to my time in Palm Springs. So these are the bubble lights from Nilsson. And again, another one of my antelope chairs by Ernest Race. Now, this is the longest relationship I've ever had. This is my childhood teddy bear. It is nearly 40 years old, and she has been with me, or he has been with me through thick and thin. So I like to just set him on my chair every single night because I know he's always watching over me and sending me good vibrations. When it comes to my bed itself, I love Parachute. Parachute makes the most incredible linens, from their quilts to their duvet covers to their pillowcases and to their fitted sheets. I'm obsessed, so I thank you, Parachute. And then my art up here. So a dear friend of mine gifted these incredible pieces in photography. I've got one downstairs and one upstairs from Noah Klasbald. She's an Israeli photographer. Obsessed with her and her pieces. It's kind of flirtatious. You don't know what's happening. What are these boys getting themselves into? It's up for the viewers, own discretion to sort of figure out what that is. So I found this triptych at Misty's in Rancho Mirage. Now, if none of you have been to Misty's, it is a must visit. It's my favorite thing to do on a Saturday and Sunday. It's the most epic consignment store in the Coachella Valley. She has everything. So I found these pieces for literally almost nothing, but then ended up spending a ton of money sending it back to the East Coast. But I love how all the colors flow perfectly and seamlessly into the rest of the roomscape. During the fire, we had to replace basically all the windows on the second floor here because the fire department just came in and brutalized the entire department. But thank you to them because they got the fire out. But because of that, we had to put in new windows. So it was important to put in new top-down windows. Again, it had to be of code and what was there before, so we couldn't have too much flexibility of what we would do there. But I am a big believer of natural sunlight. My boyfriend, on the other hand, loves blackout shades. So this week, we finally put in a blackout shade. I don't like drapery, so this is a big step for me to step into this new blackout moment. But I will say I have slept better the last 3 nights because of it, so thanks, Tyler. So my favorite thing in this apartment is very hard to answer. However, I love my art, and I love the art in every single room because it's all found art that I found at local markets in Palm Springs, in Los Angeles, in New York, on Cherish, on First Dibs, etc. I had a theme. I had a desire to create this Pink Pony Palace meets Golden Girls meets, Palm Springs abundance of kitsch in a way. And I thought, you know what, let me find pieces of art that create and bring this whole energy alive. So it was really fun piecing all the things together. This was the first piece that I bought right behind me for the apartment, ahead of all the furniture and everything, because I saw it, and I saw Dorothy, I saw Blanche, I saw Rose, and I saw Sophia, and I was like, I am obsessed. I need that piece of art, and I'm gonna design the entire apartment around these color stories. So once the fire happened on the roof deck, it was time for us to come in and sort of reimagine the space and create a functional space that I can both entertain, have guests over, do yoga on, and basically have my morning rituals, which are coffee, sunlight, and a nice solid vinyasa flow. So we wanted to have a space that combined all of those different elements, but also was super functional and could withstand a New York City winter. So we had to work with existing materials that we knew were allowed amongst the permitting process. So we did choose wood. It's actually like synthetic vinyl wood of some sort. I forget the name of it. But we had to work with that and then create built-in planters that would create sort of a boundary and a circumference around the space and sort of envelop you into the foliage, into the floral, into that vibration of nature. And then I wanted to bring in some varieties of plants that were reminiscent of our home in Palm Springs, but also were native to New York. So we have mixes of yuccas, we have cedars, we have hydrangeas, which is very East Coast. I'm not the biggest fan, like Madonna, but I make it work. So it was all about mixing these different varieties and coming together. And I worked with this incredible landscape designer, Carrie York, and he really helped me create a space that both lended itself to my New York City life and Palm Springs existence. So I was very, very grateful. When it comes to furniture, I wanted things to be light and bright, similar to the interior, as it's an extension of the home, but also materials that, again, could survive New York City winters, that would allow us the flexibility to move it up 5 flights of stairs, and also the easeability to cover and store things during the winter. So overall, it all came together pretty flawlessly. 2 years in, it's still developing, and I'm learning a little bit more about rooftops, because in the middle of the summer, it's 115 degrees up there, and in the middle of the winter, it's 115 degrees negative. So it is very extreme, and finding the right varieties and the right materials that work on a sun-baked roof is a challenge in itself, but a challenge that I love to have. Now, let me take you upstairs to the pied de résistance. My French isn't that great. It should be good though, because I'm Canadian, but this is the magical roof garden. Now, welcome to my roof garden. Now, this is my sanctuary in the middle of Manhattan, and working with Carrie to create this space was a labor of love. Now, it's always evolving and it's always changing, because the plants have a mind of their own. But let me show you all the beautiful varieties we have upstairs. So first and foremost, we wanted to create this abundance of floral display on the front side of the terrace. So this is the front side of the townhouse on this over here, but I wanted to create this gorgeous meadow and be an abundance of varieties of floral extending from east to west. So we have agaves, we have marigold, we have Russian sage, we have sunflowers, we have rosemary, we have everything, trailing cypress. We've got all of these beautiful varieties that create this magical display of floral. So I wanted to create an extension to my living room downstairs so I could have rooftop parties, charade nights, dinner parties, etc. So I wanted to create that same energy upstairs. So we have a beautiful sidebar. This is from a dear friend of mine, Ross Cassidy's collection for CB2. We've got the traditional pedal table by Richard Schultz from DWR. We have the flower pot lamps. These are fantastic additions to any outdoor space because they were all wireless. And then our dear friends at Blue Dot gave me this beautiful perch collection, which I absolutely love because it has the simplicity and mundanity of New York City, but also the aesthetic of California and my love for Palm Springs. When it comes to the hedges, it was important to sort of block off the neighbors a little bit. So wanted to put in a little back hedge, create that natural living wall behind the sofa, and then accessorize it with a mixture of ceramic pots, concrete pots, etc., to sort of bring some depth to the space itself. Now, this is the skylight. I always get petrified that someone's gonna step on this, but it is tempered glass, so no one will fall in and die, hopefully, if they go there. But this is the magic part because all the light comes in. But because this is in the middle of the space, I wanted to create a bench so we could have additional seating. So where I'm standing right now, because the floor is a little hot, are 3 great seats for people. So everyone during the parties is congregating around this skylight so they can enjoy the fun. Now, this is the silliest thing in the world that was gifted to me by my friend and best friend, Lauren Solomon, and her beautiful husband, Michael Politi, is this tricycle. And I finally realized this week why they got this for me. And I realized that it's because it's my inner child. I love to be reminded every single day that at the end of it all, we're all little kids that want to play. And this is a reminder that don't take life too seriously. go for a ride. So in this house, there are room for 2 queens. And of course, it's Queen Madonna, my favorite Stephen Klein, which was gifted to me from a dear friend of mine. And I like to be reminded every day I come home and every day I leave that she will always be the queen. What does home mean to me? That's a loaded question because I've spent a lot of time thinking about this question in a very vast array of environments. And home for me has been where I am at that exact moment in time. And as I've realized throughout my life and throughout my career, there are different moments of home. It's cities, it's careers, it's partners, but ultimately it's a space that we come back to. And it's a space that you can authentically be yourself, a space that you can open yourself up to be the most authentic version of yourself. And I believe that home is that extension of you. Now, it is a material item, so I know that there is a frivolous about that. But there is a comfort knowing that when you come home and you put your head on your pillow in a space that you've designed, that you've created, that is a combination of all of your worldly, personal experiences, there is a softness to that, and that softness is home.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.